You'd be surprised how many little things can go wrong during an open house or a property tour. A piece of art can get broken, kid runs into a sliding glass door, disclaimer sign tries to save the day, but does it really? Let's talk about what happens when open houses go oops and who actually pays for the damage. So there's a couple of different scenarios we're going to look at today. First, imagine this. So a young family walks in and they have a child, maybe they're 4 or 5 years old, and while the parents are looking at the great big island in the kitchen, the child just wanders away and goes into the dining room or the living room. And, they're curious, they're excited, they're in a new environment. And boom, the next thing you know, there's a piece of the homeowner's artwork that is on the ground and it is in shambles. It is just a mess. And of course, nobody meant for that to happen. But now, oh my gosh, there's damage. So who pays for that? Well, in this case, it's not the homeowner. The parents of the child are actually financially responsible for the damage that their child caused. You can kind of think of it like, imagine that your kid is playing in the street, baseball in the street, and they hit a ball into a neighbor's window. Well, of course, as the parent of that child, you would have to pay for that window. So it's the same thing when you visit an open house or do a property tour and your child damages something in that home. So the homeowners or renters insurance might cover it, but ultimately the bill belongs to the parents. Now, let's flip the situation. Different family, different child. This time, the kid runs full speed into a perfectly clean, spotless sliding glass door that's closed. Have you ever seen? I've seen that happen, and it is just scary. Ouch. Oh my gosh. It's just awful. Well, in this instance, the homeowner might even have a sign that's posted, not responsible for injuries or accidents. And so the homeowners are off the hook, right? Seems pretty clear, literally and figuratively, right? No, not even close. Those signs might look official, but they do not erase liability of the homeowners. If that door wasn't clearly marked or didn't meet safety code, the homeowner could be still held responsible if that child was hurt. Now, thankfully, most homeowner policies will include something called medical payments to others. Now, it's usually not a lot of money, small coverage, usually $1,000 to $10,000, and it'll pay for minor injuries, even when technically no one's at fault. So if the house gets hurt, the parents pay. If the guest gets hurt, the homeowner's insurance usually pay. And now let's kind of look at how that all works. Liability law really, if I'm going to simplify it, it really comes down to one thing. Who could have reasonably have prevented that accident? Parents are responsible for supervising their children, and homeowners, well, they're responsible for making sure that their property is safe, that it's up to code, and that there's plenty of indication where there might be hazards to alert visitors. But those not responsible for accident signs, well, they can make people cautious, but they don't hold up a legal shield at all. Now, let's talk about the real estate agent. That's me. As an agent, I have what's called a duty of reasonable care. And what that means is it's my job to take, really simple, proactive steps to make sure that people are safe when they're on the property, whether it's an open house or a personal property tour. Now, obviously, I'm not the homeowner, but in that moment, well, I'm the host. So here's what I do and what great agents do before every showing or open house. I like to walk the property to look for any kind of safety issues. I'll do things like securing loose rugs, or if there's cords that are out in the open that people might trip over, and I might unplug something or move things around a little bit. If there's decor that could tip over or trip someone, then I'll try to move those out of the way to the best of my ability. And so, I also do things like make sure that glass doors have some sort of decal or something that makes it visible. It might be just as simple as putting a couple of sticky notes on the glass doors. Sometimes I've done things like post signs that say "Watch your step" near uneven flooring, or there was one home that I showed, and it had wood steps going up to an area in the backyard, and there was rebar that was coming up out of those pieces of wood. And so I stood there while the prospective home buyers toured that property, and I alerted them and their kids. Every single time they went up or down those steps, I pointed out that rebar because it could have been a terrible hazard for them. I also like to remind parents to kind of keep an eye on their kids, and I try to be really kind and do that in a professional way so that they don't get offended. But it's really to their best interest if they keep their eyes on their kids and kind of reel them in a bit. And, the other thing that I like to do, as I kind of mentioned before, is I like to close off any unsafe areas. Like maybe there is that steep backyard slope, or there was one time I took buyers to look at this piece of property, and there was this cool treehouse deck, but it just didn't look safe. So I would not let them go out there. And I think that's the right thing to do. Because you know what? If an agent knows about a hazard and ignores it, well, that's where potential liability can actually sneak in. And even though we have E&O insurance that covers professional mistakes, it usually doesn't cover injuries or any kind of property damage. So prevention is always the best insurance policy in this case. So whether it's broken art, invisible glass, or a sign that doesn't mean what people think it does, open houses and property tours can have their share of surprises. The key is awareness, preparation, and good communication between the seller, the visitors, and of course the realtors. I'm Jeani Stevens, and this has been Who Pays for That?, where we talk about real life, real estate moments that cost real money and how to keep those costs from landing on you. If you found this helpful, please give it a like, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, because next time we're talking about who pays when something goes wrong during escrow. See you soon.